Welcome, Red Ice members. Thank you very much for tuning in, stopping by, and spending another part here with us, or listening in to another part with us here today with A.J.Bruno as we continue our very interesting and excellent discussion. We've obviously talked a whole lot about the current system and where we potentially are heading and where things potentially are heading. And in this segment here, we're going to get into a little bit more of some of the, I guess, solutions on what we can do and some of the things that, of course, AJ has been looking into when it comes to living more close to and with nature, for instance. And we're going to talk more about his log houses and some of the building projects that he's going to basically study and go into here a little bit in a while. And I think you mentioned here in February you're going to begin the course or the class, or going to this particular school. And so how long is this training, and do you know if anyone can go to these and if they're widely available, or do you have to travel far here? What's the scenario here, AJ?
The course I'm going to be taking is a 12-week course. This school that I'm going to offers a 2-week, 4-week, and I think a 6-week, maybe an 8-week too. There's plenty of schools around the country here in America. I know there's a couple up in Canada. In fact, the one guy who's the pioneer has a school up in Canada. I'm not too familiar with it or know how to get in touch with him because he's kind of non-existent on the internet. But B. Allen Mackey was like the pioneer who sort of resurrected log homes from the old days, because they used to build them a lot of the pioneers. And I even think it was Sweden where they started to build log homes, at least the European people, if I'm correct.
I think they're still kind of prominent in Germany in that sense, and I think it's a Germanic type thing to begin with, so you're probably right there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there's plenty of different schools all around, and there's one in Montana. The one I'm going to is in Indiana. So I got to travel a good 10, 11 hours to get there.
And then, and so about 12 weeks, and then, if they're widely available, let's say throughout the United States, or is this a specific area that it's only available? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I mean, there might be places over in Europe. I know it's big in Japan. I know there's a lot of Japanese people who have an interest in log homes, and I know there's a Japanese tradition with just woodworking in general over there.
Why did you feel anything specific when it comes to just log houses in that sense, or because there's a lot of different techniques, and as you mentioned before, as I mentioned, the straw bale houses, and there's other versions of this, of course. But do you have a specific drawn to log houses?
Yeah, my whole thing with it is I want to be able to have the skills to be able to rebuild, so to speak, if things play out the way I think they're going to, and civilization collapses, or if we can't make a transition from where we are, then I feel that, as we talked about, that civilization will collapse. And if I am to survive, I would like to know the skills to be able to live off the land and to be able to rebuild from the resources that will be readily available. I mean, I'm definitely interested, and I have nothing against the straw bale houses, the earth ships, people taking old used tires. I think they use that in the earth ships. And then there's other type of houses that they build where they use the cob and stuff, and I know they use that with the straw bale as well. I think that's what it's called. Am I correct?
Run that by me again, AJ.
The cob, it's the mortar that they use to cover up the straw when they build the house.
I'm not sure. I think that they have just an kind of an over coating, if you will, of a chalk type solution that you put over it. But I don't know if you're referring to something that actually keeps the individual bale of straw together. I'm not too familiar with that actually.
No. After you mentioned it to me, I went and read up on it a bit and found this one site where this guy, I think he used to build a lot of houses, and now he's like dedicated towards teaching people how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at they stack up the straw. It's done in a certain way, and then they put over a wire mesh, and then over that they put this. I guess it's what the way they used to build stuff in the South, Mexican type of stuff, the old adobe type of style.
Yeah, right. Okay, yes.
Yeah, they use that to cover it, and that's like a real basic sort of mortar or cement that they use, and it's good because it's very fireproof.
Exactly. That's absolutely right, and this can even be easily. You can let's say that a particular bale, a straw bale gets bad or whatever, because that can happen. This is actually, you can like just break open this very easily and can exchange a part of the house and then cover it up again with the same material. So it's very kind of actually easy and good for maintaining your house or for maintenance of the house.
Yeah. I mean, when I read a little bit, because I did think about that a little bit after you mentioned it. Then when I was reading about this guy, he was going over the whole thing with the straw bale, and he was saying if you take care of the bales properly, once you get them in the wall and you get them covered, it's an airtight space. The straw's not going to decompose. It's not going to get bad. There's really not going to be any way for critters to get in there. The only reason it would get bad if it wasn't built properly and rain got in there. And
yeah, that's true.
The mold and all that. But if you build stuff right, it's definitely a real viable, I think, alternative method that people should be moving towards in these kind of areas. But for myself, when it comes to these other types of building styles, for me, if I say civilization collapsed and all that type of stuff, and you don't have agriculture, so you're not going to be able to get the straw unless you do it yourself. You have to grow it yourself to get it, and then you have to get all the components. And when you're making the mortar or the cement, you're going to have to find sand. So if you're not in an area where there's sand, you're not going to be able to make it because you're going to have parts that are too far spread out. But if you're in a wilderness area, the logs are readily available, and you can pretty much build a log house with just an axe.
And so that's what primarily you kind of had in mind when you choose that.
Yeah, to be able to have those skills, so if things do fall apart and I do survive, I'll be able to have the skills to move forward and help other people as well with that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good so if you've thought about it, so to speak. And I hope, by the way, I just want to mention, I hope to have our good friend Daniel Tatman is big into straw bale houses, and we hope to have him on the program at some point just to talk about that alone as a side note on architecture, and that should be something that we'll kind of follow up on, I guess, and talk more about straw bale houses. But anyway, so this this is a course you're taking. Have you studied anything before this about it, or is this kind of head on into it and just see where this ends up, or have you a good idea of what you can expect at this point when it comes to building these kinds of houses?
Yeah, I've been reading books. I've been reading I read 2 B. Allen Mackey books so far, Building with Logs and The Owner Built Log Home. And I'm also in the process of reading through another book written by a guy named Robert Chambers, who wrote a book called The Log Construction Manual, and it's probably one of the more widely renowned books written on the subject. Because if B. Allen Mackey, the way I see it, I mean, I could be wrong about this because I'm just learning about it, but if B. Allen Mackey's the pioneer, this Robert Chambers is more like the guru when it comes to building log homes. He's really really thorough and got a lot of things kind of mapped out in regards to how it's to be done. When it comes to building trusses and dealing with loads and things like that that's going to be sitting on the roof. If you're living in a place where it snows a lot, then you're going to have to build the roof to be able to handle the loads of the snow sitting on the roof. And if you don't build the roof properly, you can really build a death trap for somebody. So
yeah. And
he covers. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to ask you. You're primarily also talking about one-story houses here with very. Are we talking about like not maybe tight spaces, but spaces that are primarily designed to not have that much internal heating? So these are fairly small, or are we talking about larger constructions here? Well, maybe that depends on what your preferences is, I guess.
Yeah, it all depends on what. I mean, I haven't even thought to consider what, because the first house I'm going to build, besides what we work on at school, is probably going to be my own house. And then later, I mean, when I run the business and get the business going, I like to be able to have the people come in and say, well, how do you want the house to be? I want the people to be involved in the design work. If ultimately, I like to get to that point where people can come in and talk with an architect and get the design and have a house built that's going to work for them.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I like that.
Do you like a mud room, or do you not like a mud room? Do you want a porch, or do you need a garage, or whatever you need? I think everybody's house should be tailored to their own needs. And so, yeah, eventually I'd like to get to that thing. But no, I mean, you can. There's some log mansions out there. I'm not into building anything like that, but if someone comes along and wants one built and they're going to have the money and they're going to come up and deal with the contract, then I don't have any problem with building something like that. But at the same time, it's some of that kind of stuff is overkill. I mean, if some of the if this kind of thing got big for me and I really got it to move, and a Rockefeller came and wanted me to build him a house, I tell him to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
You don't get a thing for me, man.
So
I probably won't be building any mansions, but
right.
I know there are some out there. I mean, I've seen pictures of some pretty elaborate designs. But yeah.
That's cool. And what I know there's some different even style that you can use for like I think it's insulation like between the logs. I've seen this process where they're like hammering. They have some kind of wool type hemp things in some cases. Or have you looked into that at all?
Yeah, that's called chinking. Yeah, usually there's different methods. There's different like chinking ways. Sometimes you can see the log homes where they're not notched down on top of each other, and you see like a little space of mortar in between. That's some kind of chink. It's called chinking style. I don't really know the actual name for it, but yeah, every time you if you even put the logs down on top of each other, you still got to put some type of chinking to insulate the logs.
Mm-hmm.
But if the houses are built properly, they'll last hundreds of years. I think they can be passed down through the generations, and they'll definitely be airtight and that type of stuff as far as energy efficiency if it's built properly.
Yeah.
There's a lot to consider when it comes to from some of the things I've been reading as far as checking in the logs, how the logs a log will naturally shrink and it will crack when it gets down to the becoming dry.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen is over time it takes about 4 or 5 years for a log home to settle, and every house does settle. But usually with log homes it's a lot more extreme because the grain is going horizontal instead of vertical. When a log or any type of wood loses its moisture and gets dry, it's going to shrink down